Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Edge of Comfort podcast, where we explore the adventures, perspectives, and philosophies of world travelers. I am your host, Lee Thornquist, and thank you for listening today. First off, let me ask you a question. If you had a week off from work, what would you do with your time? Your answer might be a little different from what my guest today decided to do in this scenario. On today's episode, we are joined by someone who just walked from London to Paris in 7 days. She planned this challenge in less than a week and set out alone from London in late October 2018 with a goal to be standing on top of the Eiffel Tower in a week. The Eiffel Tower also is 380 kilometers, or 236 miles, away from her starting point. This person's name is Oline Sørensen, and her story is quite an inspiring and important one to hear, not only because of this walk she did, but also because of some of the things she's gone through and overcome in the years prior. One of the main reasons Oline did this walk was to raise awareness and money for a mental health charity called Mind. We get into the details of why she chose this charity and mental health as her cause throughout the episode. She also set out to prove that we are all capable of much more than we think we are, which is something I also strongly believe in, and also that you really can do whatever you set your mind to. So I don't want to spoil too much of her story, so we're just going to jump right into it, also because she is a great storyteller and very entertaining to listen to. You can find full show notes and links to some of the things we reference, like Oline's fundraiser page, at edgeofcomfort.com/EOCP16. That's the number 16. Also, if you've enjoyed the podcast, whether you've listened to past ones or this is your first one, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, either through the app on your phone or iTunes on your computer. Just search for Edge of Comfort in the podcast section, click on Ratings and Reviews, and then write a review. I really enjoy reading your feedback, and it also helps new people discover these conversations. If you need a step-by-step guide on how to write a review, you can find one at edgeofcomfort.com/podcast-review. Also, make sure to stick around at the end for the question of the episode. Thank you so much to Oline for sharing her story and being so open about her life. Thank you for listening. I really think you're going to enjoy this one. So, let's go.
Good morning.
What's all the commotion?
Wow.
Are banana fish big?
Same, but different.
If I can't scuba, then what's this all been about?
Welcome to the Edge of Comfort podcast with your host, Lee Thornquist.
Welcome, everyone. Today we have Oline with us. I'm going to have her say her last name so I don't screw it up. Thank you for joining us today, Oline. And how do you say your last name again?
It's Sørensen, Oline Sørensen.
Sørensen. Okay. Yeah, I will screw that up probably, so apologies if I do. But thank you so much for joining today. I'm really excited to have you on. And
Of course, I'm excited to be here.
yeah, my friend texted me a bunch of the screenshots of your story from walking from London to Paris in some travel group. It was like 16 screenshots. It was a pretty long story. And
Yeah.
As soon as I read it, I knew that I needed to talk to you because it's such a cool story, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But one of the things that jumped out at me right away was you said you really believe it's important to have some emotion behind your action. Could you kind of explain this belief a little bit more and kind of why this is so important to you?
Yes, definitely. Well, I think whatever we do in life, we do it we do it a lot better and with a lot more determination if we actually have some emotion behind it. And the reason for that is that as soon as we get emotions involved, like we have a reason to do it, of course, then um, we just tends to do it better. And I can give a good example is that if you let's say that someone asked you to knit a sweater, and then you would probably say no, because who want to sit down and knit a sweater? If this same person came over to you and had kidnapped one of your family members, and then said, if you don't knit this sweater, learn how to knit this sweater, then would you, if you don't, sorry, if you don't learn how to knit this sweater, then you're never going to see your family member again. Then you will definitely go and knit that bloody sweater because you have some emotion behind it. So that's just a little example. But I think, and I applied this for my walk to Paris because I had a lot of reasons, not exactly reasons to go to Paris, but I just had a lot of things to prove by going on this walk. And I think that in the end was why I got over my fear and anxiety on the trip, because fear and anxiety was something that I felt a lot during this trip, because I was walking alone and I had moments where I was doubting if I should keep going or not. But with that bit of emotion and having a reason to keep going, really did it for me. Yeah, and I don't think I would have made it without having a bit of emotion behind. Yeah.
So do you always try to make it like have some emotion behind it that is something, whether like good or bad, like something that works for you, something you think is positive, or is it just any sort of emotion that you should have behind it, like if you're doing something out of fear or because you're anxious about it?
Well, it can be any sort of emotion. It can be out of anger, out of happiness. It can be anything, whatever that actually motivates you. I think is good, but of course it's always better to have some good emotions to drive you. But if it's anger that you need to get rid of and you need to do something because of anger, then go for it. I know a lot of people. I'm a gym person, right? And I know a lot of people go to the gym and they always say that the days where people have like pissed them off or days that haven't been that good, and then they go to the gym, and that's the best days for them at the gym, because they get rid of all this anger they have. They get all their
So that's a good healthy outlet for getting rid of some anger, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about the walk a little bit. So what was, I guess, your main emotion behind this walk? You know, why did you do this? You said you kind of wanted to prove some things and kind of challenge yourself. Like, what was the reason behind doing such a extreme sort of thing for this?
Well, mainly I walked as a fundraiser for a mental health charity called Mind. And for me, I personally been through some mental health issues a couple of years ago, which kind of it made me realize that it's something that can be misunderstood, and it's something that needs more awareness. So for me, I had a wish with this walk to bring more awareness and to also get some economical help for it. And so that was sort of like the main reason I had. And then you could answer, like, it all sums up with the walk, because then during the walk I actually had all of this, because I used to suffer a bit from anxiety, and then this walk kind of gave me back that anxiety. But this is there's two different forms of anxiety, right? There's the one you live with every day, and then there's the one that everyone gets, because we all get a sort of anxiety when we, like, before an exam, or when we have something really important in our life, or a test of some sort of thing. A lot of people get these anxious feelings, and so obviously on this walk I got a bit of this anxiety in my body, and it reminded me how it is just imagining living with that every day, because some people don't just get it before an exam and stuff. They get it every day before going out of the house, or just to go socialize. They get all anxious and panicked and stuff like this, and it's just so uncomfortable to live with. So my trip all the time, like my trip reminded me all the time why I was doing it as well, because it reminded me of how shitty it feels to be anxious all the time. So mental health, not just the anxiety part, but just in general, I think is something that needs more awareness. So that was definitely driving me a long way. And then my second reason was because I think, especially living in London, it's there's a lot about career and success, and I feel like a lot of people here feel that the only way to succeed in life is to get a big career, and which is also very successful. But I also just wanted to prove that there's other ways to get success in your life and feel successful, and it could be walking from London to Paris. No, it was just an example. It was just to say that you don't have to be book smart to succeed in life, and I wanted to prove that to some people. And the third and most important reason is that I'm a big believer in that you can do whatever you set your mind to. And sometimes I get met with a bit of people who say that, well, you need this and you need that, and yeah, but if you set your mind to something, you can do it. So it's like if you want to be a billionaire, you set your mind to it, you become a billionaire because you work your ass off to get there, you know. So of course, setting your mind to something isn't like, oh, okay, I can set my mind to do a backflip today, and then you do it. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. It's like you set your mind to learning. It's about the learning part, right? So it's okay, I want to learn how to do a backflip. Every single person can learn how to do a backflip. It's just about setting your mind to it and actually be willing to put in the effort. And I wanted to prove that as well with walking to Paris, is that, well, anything is possible if you just go for it and do whatever it takes to, like, sort of get it done.
So how did you plan for something like this? Because I'm assuming you had to take a ferry across over to the other side of. Did you land in France then?
Yeah. I went. So this is gonna be fun to talk about, because I still have not found out how to pronounce all the cities / towns I went to in France. So but I will try to spell them out as well. So that was, well, because the fun part about me planning this is that I actually didn't. In saying that, I walked 4 weeks ago. I love walking. So let's say I walk about at least 10 to 15 kilometers in a day every day. That is probably my average of walking. So I do love walking. And then 4 weeks ago, I was walking around in London, and I often take on the weekends when I'm off from work. I often take this walk where I walk all the way from West London to East London, and I think it's such an awesome walk because you get to see the city in ways that you couldn't on when you're on the tube or anything else. So I try to take different routes every time to see some like different stuff through London. Then 4 weeks ago I did this, but then when I got to East London, I was like, oh, maybe I could walk back as well. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna walk back home. So I ended up walking in the middle of the night as well. So I walked to East London, and then I walked back, and I came home and realized I had walked 50 kilometers. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I was like, then a thought came to my head. I was like, oh, maybe I could walk to Paris. And basically, I just went in on Google Maps and saw the route, and I was like, wow. On Google Maps it says it takes 58 hours, but that's because there's no night sleeping and just walking straight there for like 58 hours, right? I was not gonna do that. But it surprised me, and it was 380 kilometers in total, and I was like, it surprised me actually how little it was, because I was thinking very different numbers in this. I know it's a lot, but I was like, I was surprised. So I was like, maybe I could actually do this. And so a week later, I remember I posted on because I post on Instagram, then I post like my I have a Fitbit on and get the results of how many steps and kilometers I walk every day. And this day when I had walked 50, I obviously put it up on my story. And then I remember screenshotting the photo of Google Maps with the map from London to Paris, and I put up a poll on my Instagram asking people, my next walk, ? And then people could go vote. And then I had fuck no and fuck yes. And then I got, I think it was like 67% of fuck yeses. And then I was like, yeah, fuck yes. I'm going to do this. But what they all didn't know was that, hey, I'm actually going to do this now. A week later, I actually made the decision. I started to calculate because then my I work as a nanny here in London, and the mom whose kids I nanny for, she told me that the kids were going to go away with their father for the holidays. So I was like, oh, that means a week off for me. And I was like, that's perfect timing to walk to Paris. So when I got told this, I started planning and find out if I could actually afford it, and I started booking things slowly. But at this point, I felt that I hadn't really made the decision yet. But I was just like, because the hotels I booked was free cancellation and stuff like this. But I was definitely going towards, yeah, I'm going to do it. But so I planned as much as I could, booking the hotels in advance, because I knew, so the way I figured out my plan or my route was that I knew I could walk 50 kilometers in one day. And a bit more, I think, because after that 50-kilometer walk, I was a bit sore, I admit. My legs were a bit wobbly and I was a bit sore. But I figured, well, you know, I'm also used to a bit of pain from the gym, so I'm used to just being like, yeah, it's cool, it's fine. So that's how I planned my route, was to say, okay, you can walk an average of 50 kilometers a day. So where was I?
So why did you? Was it like you wanted to push yourself each day? You know, why did you decide to do this? Did you only have that week time frame? So you're like, I can do that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I only had this week, so that was also that became actually one of the biggest challenges on the trip was the time. I also, because I had not planned on the fact that the days were shorter because of it already got dark at maybe 6 o'clock in England, and then at 7 in France because they're an hour ahead. But the days were very short actually, and for me, I'm very scared of the dark, and the irony of that. And I'm also very scared of the countryside, and most of the time I just ended up in the dark on the countryside alone in the middle of night, walking very, very fast. And like that is definitely, a girl asked me, because she asked, she wanted to do this, and she asked me what would I have done differently. And I think what I would definitely have done differently was to do it maybe closer to summertime, before the days get shorter, to have like more daytime, because that actually really that became a stressful thing on this trip. And my flight ticket. My flight ticket back to London was on the Sunday, and I started walking Sunday the 21st of October, and then had a flight back on Sunday. Is it the 28th? I think it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the time I had.
Okay, so like, how many hours a day were you actually walking? Were you waking up at like 5, 6 a.m. and literally walking until you got to these places, like 12, 14 hours?
Yeah, it was everything. I think my shortest day of walking was probably 12 hours, and then my longest day of walking was 15 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was painful.
Like, were you listening to music during this? Like, what were you doing to keep yourself occupied? Like,
yeah. So most of the time, I had made a playlist on my phone called London to Paris, and I knew a few songs also from the gym that I know that this is gonna motivate me a lot, and I only put motivating songs into the playlist. So. Also because I know if I had made like an let's say emotional playlist next to it, and I started to listen to it, I would start to walk slow or something, and go into my mind and not think. So that's also a fun thing to mention as well, is that you know how people go for walks, and then you expect, you go for a walk because you want to clear your head and you want to clear your mind, and you don't want to think, and you kind of just want to get rid of whatever is in there. And it was so funny. Like a lot of people were like asking me after, you had a lot of time to think about things in life and stuff. And no, actually not, because I was so on what was going on in the moment on this entire trip, because I was on the country roads where trucks and cars are driving next to you with like, I don't know how many miles an hour, like 80, 70 miles an hour, and they're just flying past you. So whenever I was not on these country roads, I was in cities. Whenever I was not in cities, I was in big black dark forests in France, where I looked out for horror movie creatures. So you know what? I never ever got to think a moment about my life. I was just thinking about what is going on right here and right now, and that surprised even me. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that, like, are you glad that you did this alone versus maybe having someone else with you?
So actually I was when I was planning it, when I decided, I think, I'm going to start planning this right now, it's because one of my friends, who's also a personal trainer here in London, he messaged me on Instagram and said, hey, I want to do that one day. Give me a week in advance, and let's do it. I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, oh, okay, you want to join me? And then with the thought of him joining me, then I said, well, I'm going to do it now because I have a holiday coming. And then he backed out. Well, I was actually, the first 2 days planning this, I was planning in my head as it was me and him walking. But then he had to back out because some family related stuff. And then I was like, well, I've already planned a lot, so I'm doing it alone. And I remember my mom was freaking out a bit about the whole alone fact, and she got me freaked out at one point as well, because she was like, oh, but what about cars pulling over on the country and like dragging you into the car and stuff. And this was like, I told my mom, you have to shut up right now, because if you keep talking about all this stuff, I end up not going, because you're putting all these thoughts into my head about what is going to happen. So I eventually said, Mom, only positive talk from now on, otherwise I'm not going to talk to you before I actually do this walk. Which she understood. So she was like, okay, that's fair enough. But I'm actually so happy I did this walk alone, because I think I learned a lot more from it as to if I had walked with someone else. And it challenged it. It got a lot more challenging, and I'm a pretty independent person actually, and I like to do things on my own. And I felt that some of the longer days, so they would have been nice with a friend to talk to at least, because I started to go a bit crazy as well, spending so much time alone. But the fact that I could walk on the fields in the middle of nowhere with my headphones in my ears and scream my lungs out singing, that was awesome. So I'm happy I did it alone.
Have you ever done like solo traveling or any sort of like solo trip like this before, or was this really like your first true solo type thing like this?
Well, I'm a ski instructor, and actually, when I was 19, I took off alone to live in Andorra for 4 months to become a ski instructor. And I remember it was like the same sort of feeling that when I left my mom in the airport, it was kind of like that heart was like beating out my chest sort of feeling, and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually doing this. But it also ended up being the best thing I've ever done. So I was alone in Andorra for 4 months, but you create friends and stuff there. And I also traveled to Canada alone, and working as a ski instructor there. So I've traveled alone, but I've never backpacked alone, if that's what you were more thinking. That I've never done things where I had to challenge myself this way alone. No. So that was definitely the first for that.
Okay. And so, like, I'm sure some of the fears you talked about, like the countryside and night and combining those two and being alone, probably kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word for that. But just kind of brought those more to light, I guess, for you, or like more immediate. So, how did you deal with these fears and some other fears, like your mom talking about what if some car pulls over? And obviously you don't want to think that could happen, and you don't, you want to plan for the worst in some ways, but, how did you deal with these possible scenarios, or just dealing with some of the fears that you had to deal with because you were alone?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think as I said, I was very much in the moment on this entire walk. And the fear of someone pulling over didn't actually occur at any time, really, because I was more afraid of getting hit by a car. The roads I was walking on was... I was actually walking on the road until a car came towards me. Then I had to walk onto the grass. The first when I walked from Crawley to New Haven, that was probably the worst part, like when talking about the roads, because I actually had to, there was either the road or a nettle bush, like along the road. So I got burned drastically on my legs by nettles, and it actually turned into blisters eventually. Because it was either that or getting hit by a truck. So that fear kind of like, I didn't think about, okay, this truck driver is going to stop now and drag me out. I was more like, okay, he's gonna hit me. But so facing the fears, the worst day. This was I had taken one rest day in Dip, I think it's called. In France, it's like it's where the ferry goes to, so it's spelled Dieppe. And I had a rest day in Dip, and so I took off because I knew that the next day was gonna be the longest walk of them all. So I took off at 4 a.m. in the morning. And I walked through Dip, and it was fine because whenever I'm in the city, it doesn't matter as long as there's like there's some lights and maybe a car here and there coming. Then I feel sort of safe. I don't know why. And then, but it was more. Then I left Dip, and suddenly there was just this massive, big black forest in front of me. And I was just standing there, and I could feel the tears sort of pushing through, because I was like, damn it. I was like, oh my God, no, you gotta be joking. But then I was just like, I don't know, my thoughts were just, what really helped me was to imagine the place in the daytime. So I started, instead of starting to imagining all the creatures and whatever that could hide in a forest in France, then I started imagining an old couple walking through the forest really happy in the daytime with their dog. And like I tried to picture the forest in the daytime. And then I just let that roll into my head, and then I just started walking really, really fast. This forest lasted for probably 10 to 15 minutes, where my heart was just in my throat. But also, I think I could see on maps that how long it sort of was, this forest, so I knew it wasn't gonna last forever. So I also knew there was a stop to it, which also helped, thinking that if I walk really, really fast, I could be out of this forest really, really fast. And that was, so I think that was a really good way for me to deal with my fears, because my fear was the dark, right? And to imagine it not being dark really helped. And I don't know, it was just I was like, well, you can either stand here or you can walk through this forest and actually make it to your goal, or you can stand here and just, well, because it wasn't going to make any difference really if I could stand outside the forest or go into the forest. I was just like, well, doesn't matter, I have to go. There was really not a question in the end. But then I came out of this forest, and then I was met by a graveyard. Oh my God, I just want to laugh. And it made me laugh and cry at the same time when I got out of this forest. I was laughing whilst I was crying. It's kind of when you watch a sad movie and then you cry and then you laugh because you cry. That was sort of like the thing I had going on for me when I came to this graveyard. But again, I used my imagination. And even though it's the middle of the night in a graveyard, it's never fun to walk at the middle of the night because, well, all the people. But then I tried to think, okay, Oline, if you had never watched a horror movie or anything like that with graveyards and stuff, and just think about this place where you are right now, and it's actually a beautiful place where people were lying to rest in peace, right? And I saw it as this, and then I was like, imagine all the beautiful spirits that are protecting you right now walking through this graveyard. That is, so instead of, putting this whole demon thought in my head about graveyards that you can because you watch the wrong movies, then I just started to like look at it in a beautiful way, and that got me through the graveyard. Yeah, I use my imagination a lot, and then so I was like, okay, now it cannot get worse. This was it. That was it. Okay, now we can relax and we can just walk. No, because the next thing I know is that I enter a small, very small French village. And this village is the most horror-looking bullshit I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was the houses were like, like old French houses. They were falling apart, and they were just, they had this sort of look to them that was just like not very nice to look at. And at this time, I cried. I was like, this is too much, because I had just been through adrenaline, and I was so ready to relax, And then I came in, and this was the worst. And I called my mom at, was it, I think 5 or 5:30 in the morning. It was still pitch dark, because also in France I hadn't thought about that the sun was coming up an hour later, so that the sun would not rise before 8:30. So it was also a sort of feeling that, okay, I need to keep going in this sort of stuff for 3 hours in the dark, and it was just. The time period for me was just too long of dealing with this fear. Anyway, so I called up my mom, crying, panicking. My mom was like asleep, sort of thing. And I was like, Mom, I'm on this street, and blah blah blah. It's horror, blah blah blah. Oh, and she sort of talked me down and was like, she's like, describe it for me, and blah blah blah. I was like, okay. So whilst I was talking to her, that calmed me down, of course. It always calms you down to talk to your mom. So I was like, then I was walking, and then suddenly on my maps, it wanted me to walk through another forest. And then I had walked past a few houses, and one of the houses had lights in it, which was, I didn't know if I found that nice or very, very scary. And then I know, when you're alone in the country and there's no other people around and you're in the dark, your imagination runs wild, and you think of at least 20 horror movies you watched for the last 10 years. I swear, it will just, it's not a joke. It's really uncomfortable, actually. You walk. Anyways, Google Maps wanted me to take me through this forest again, but I came to this forest and there was no trail there. It wanted me to walk through sticks and, just branches and stuff like that, where I'm like, well, that's gonna get stuck to my hair, and that's like, I can't probably walk through. Like, it looked impossible. And then I was still on the phone to my mom, and I was like, Mom, there's a forest and I can't go through it and I don't know what to do. And then I had to walk back past that house again, and because I think I was talking to my mom on the phone, so I had probably woken up some people in this village. So there was this man in the window looking out at me, and that was just, I don't know, it was just, oh my God, I've never been so scared in my life. I was like, yeah, this is the guy who's going to come in. And then, I don't know if you have ever watched this movie. Have you ever seen Wolf Creek?
I have not, no.
Oh, don't see that if you ever go to Australia, because this is, it's about a group of hitchhikers who just, this man is taking them sort of, he's inviting them. Well, he's giving them a ride, and then he's inviting them to his house to stay the night. And then he poisoned them with some water, and just ends up like, yeah,
I'm not going to reveal it, but it's a very disgusting movie, and I will not recommend anyone watching it before going to Australia. Anyways, that movie just came to my mind. I was like, this is the man, and now I'm going to go into his house, and then, just the imagination just runs wild. Anyways, I was still in this village, and then there was no lamp post in this village either. Like, there was no light, and then I walked. When I say a village, this is a street. It's just a street with like possibly 50 houses in total. And then I found one lamppost at the end of the street and sat down. And I was actually sat here for an hour because I couldn't move. I was stiff of like pure fear. I was just sat there talking to my mom. And then I tried to look on Google Maps to find another route, because otherwise I would have had to wait there for like 2 or 3 more hours for the sun to come up, because for me I couldn't walk through that forest at all. I couldn't walk through. Anyways, I found a route over a field that would lead me to a country road, and then this country road would take me to another French town that seemed a bit bigger and a bit where there was a cafe and stuff I could see on the Google Maps. So I started aiming for that and walked over this lovely and muddy field, which was also a bit challenging in the dark. But this was the day I called the horror day in my sort of story as well, because it was just a lot of fear and a lot of I don't know. And I if you ask me, I don't know if I go back in time and think. Well, if I think back in time, I don't know how I made myself walk through that forest. I actually don't know.
Yeah, that seems like a lot got thrown at you in one day.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, it was like bombarded with the horror.
Yeah. So, like, after that day and after the first few, and like, what were your physical and emotional states? Like, was there ever a time where you're like, why the hell am I doing this? Like,
oh yeah,
just like I want to quit. Like, what was your states like throughout this trip?
Well, actually, this day, after those feelings started already the first day when I walked from London to Crawley. It was 55 kilometers, and the last 5 kilometers, I thought I had booked my hotel in Crawley. I tried to book my hotels in cities so I could be at a place where I could find a supermarket, because I also needed to load up on food and stuff every day. So I tried to be in cities most of the time whenever I was sleeping. And then, but this hotel was actually 5 kilometers out of the city, because it was by Gatwick Airport. So I had to walk in the country for 5 hours. Oh, not 5 hours. I'm so sorry. 5 kilometers. And already then, that was like my first night of getting that, ooh, it's dark in this country. And then I got to my hotel, and I just remember I was sore, and it was my first day. And I remember having this thought in my head, because one of my friends from London had told me, well, it's never about everyone can do anything in one day. It's about repeating it the next day and the next day and the next day. And that had really got to me, actually. Because I was fearing, because I went, and there was a bathtub in the hotel, and I went straight into an ice cold bath, because I read online that whenever your body is have been walking for so long, it's swollen and stuff, then the best thing you can do is to actually take an ice bath. But I didn't have ice, so I just made it ice cold. And I was in this bath, and, that was really uncomfortable as well. And, there was just already things here where I'm like, this is going to be a lot of discomfort, Just on the first day, I could already feel, okay, now we're going. So, anyways, I was in my hotel, and I felt very alone, actually, after that, because my whole body started aching, and I was just thinking, am I doing can I do this? And am I doing the right thing and stuff? And then, but as soon as it got to the morning, I woke up and my body was actually I never woke up with a really sore body. It wasn't like the soreness I'm used to from the gym. So I never woke up feeling like I couldn't move on. It was always at nighttime. Those feelings struck me that, okay, this is a bad idea. And especially when I had walked from Crawley to New Haven, I was sat in that was the day with all the needles. So I had blisters up my legs, right? And also an hour before arriving in New Haven, I had stepped in a massive puddle. So both of my shoes were soaked and nails, they were so smelly. I was just very dirty, very sore, and just I had to go on this ferry for 4 hours. I was there at 9 p.m. and the ferry was leaving at 11 p.m. And I had to sleep on this ferry. Actually, I had planned that I was going to walk 15 hours straight after 4 hours of sleep on the ferry.
Oh my gosh.
But I changed that. That was when I took the rest day in depth, because I realized that is not going to happen. As you have to also acknowledge that, well, being a personal trainer and on a daily basis, putting my body under a lot of pressure by going to the gym, I also know how very important it is to rest and to recover and to, to sort of, otherwise you just gonna tear your body apart and not going to be able to keep going. So for me, it was definitely the right thing to take this rest day and be like, yeah. But when I was sat in New Haven, those 2 hours waiting for this ferry, that was the worst part, because my body was actually shaking. Everything on me was shaking, and my feet were just like the blisters had started. This was when the blisters had started to get really, really gross and.
Right after this was the second day?
This was the second day, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I had walked 111 kilometers in 2 days at this point. My body could definitely feel it at this time. And it was very cold as well in the waiting area. And the fact that I couldn't go into a bath and take a shower and lie down in a bed like I could the day before when arriving at my destination. And I couldn't change clothes, just all this stuff that would make you feel more comfortable was stuff that I couldn't do this day. So I was I was just sat on the floor in the waiting area I took off my shoes and my socks and I was like a bit like, okay, I'm sorry everyone who's sat in here, but I have to do this. I felt so sorry because it was so smelly. Like, I don't know what that puddle was, but it was something gross. And but this was like the thoughts of me. It was sort of like a bad balance, because half of me was really proud to have made it to the bottom of England, and I was crying tears of happiness when I saw the sign to New Haven during my walk. Because I was so happy that I was at the bottom of England, and it was actually a big moment for me. But then going to that waiting area at the ferry was just sat there, and then I started to just thinking, wow, should I really actually go on this ferry? Because think about how you're feeling just on the second day, and you want to do this for 4 or 5 days more, and then you're going to be in France, and you're not going to, you're not going to be in a country where, I don't speak French, right? Where people understand you and stuff like this. So, of course, those thoughts went through my mind then massively. But my determination was bigger than my anxiety. So I ended up going on the ferry and being like, oh, let's do this. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely had moments of feeling, should I be doing this? And should I go back? Can I go back? And can someone pick me up in a helicopter? Or I definitely had these thoughts for sure. Yeah.
So after getting blisters on the second day, what was it? Just super painful the rest of the time? Like, how was the state of your feet by the end? Were you just like so... were your feet swollen, or like I've never walked or done that amount of distance in that time. I can't even imagine what like that took on your feet.
Yeah. Well, it was I had very swollen feet at the end of the day. I think and it started to get, well, what I was careful about, what I was like sort of trying to well, because blisters is just blisters, right? And that's just, that blisters is not, it can't really hurt you, and it cannot injure you on a further in life or whatever. It's just blisters, so it's just pain. You sort of have to like just hold in and be okay. It's just blisters. But then what I was really looking out for was that if your feet starts to hurt underneath and stuff, that's like, because of course your feet is what the part of your body that gets the worst of a trip like this. And I only one time actually felt that my feet were very swollen and hurting underneath as well. And this was the same day as my horror day in the morning. I had then walked the entire day after that on the country roads in France, and I remember 5 hours before I reached my destination, I hit a wall, and my feet were just giving up on me. And it was so painful. It was like, I don't know how I was walking, but the way I was walking was definitely not looking great. And but I remember messaging I put a story up on Instagram saying, hey, I hit a wall. I need some love. And actually so many people were so nice and was like, you can do it, just keep going, and send some encouraging messages to me, which was actually very encouraging and very motivating. So but for 5 hours I walked in an insane amount of pain this day, and that was probably physically that was one of the worst parts. The day after this day, I actually sprained my ankle, but still, this was worse. It was worse having these swollen feet that you could barely walk. And it took me 5 hours to make it to Rue, I think it's called. Here comes the names again. It's a row. It's Rouen. Because I walked for 15 hours this day, 70 kilometers in one day.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's so. And that was definitely the toughest day of them all. Yeah, but you just have to fight it in, because I don't know, I was so determined. It's so hard to say how you get through the pain and how you get through the anxiety and all this, because I think when your mind is set towards something, it doesn't matter all the pain and anxiety. You're so, your mind is so focused on making it to that one goal. And yeah, so I'm having a really hard time actually thinking back to how I was dealing with both the pain and all this, and how I think it's hard for me to describe, because it was just something that I had to do. I felt like I had to do it.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that, but real quick, there's this guy called David Goggins. He's an ex-Navy SEAL and done some just unbelievable physical feats. I think he ran 205 miles. So I don't know what that is in kilometers, sorry.
That's basically my trip.
Yeah, so he ran that in 39 hours, and he's just done some unbelievable...
I need to check this guy out.
Yeah, look him up, and I'll send you over some of his stuff. And he set the world record for pull-ups in 24 hours. Wow. He's just done some unbelievable things. And
that's awesome.
One of the things he talks about is, I think he calls it the 40% rule. And basically he says that when your mind tells you to stop when, like, that's enough, I can't go any further. He says that you've only used up 40% of what you're actually capable of.
Wow.
So that's like what I've been thinking of lately. I've been doing some running and some other stuff, but so I'm sure, like, yeah, when your mind is like, no, I can't go any further, this is too much, just kind of pushing through is almost like you're kind of tapping into that part that you still have available, but you don't really know it unless you try it or get to that point.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. He sounds like an awesome guy. I really need to look that up. But that's also something that you do. I think I've learned that from the gym. Because you go to the gym and you lift these weights, and like you're actually tearing up your muscles while you're lifting weights, right? So you're going through some discomfort going to the gym, and then we also have this saying, us gym people, no pain, no gain, and it's basically true, because you have to, like, the last couple of sets and reps and stuff like that you have, and you just have to push through that pain. Because if you don't push through that and do the last sets, then you're not going to get any gains. So I think being a gym person has really mentally set me up quite well for a trip like this, because you learn how to deal with, that, as this guy called the 40% rule, but the thing where you push yourself further than you actually think you could do.
So how do you, my follow-up question was, like, so how do you push through that discomfort and that pain, but also not push yourself too far, and, making sure you have some rest, or whether that's a rest day or whatever, and making sure, like walking the line between pushing yourself and finding out what you're capable of, but also not doing some serious damage or injuring yourself? I'm sure there's not like one set thing for how you find that balance between the two, but like with this walk or your gym experience, like, have you found any sort of, like, not strategies, but just ways to kind of walk that line?
No. Honest answer. I think you have to get to know yourself and your body and yourself very well, and then just take it from there. I would, the day where I sprained my ankle, the day after the long day, I was convinced I was going to wake up and not be able to walk because I was in so much pain for those last 5 hours. But I took, luckily my hotel had a ice bath as well, and I woke up feeling somewhat okay, and I walked for 3 hours, and boom, I rolled onto my ankle and fell, and I could just hear a snap from my ankle, and I got back up and I yelled very loudly on a field in France, "Fuck!" And at this point, that could have been really stupid, or I don't know what, but I don't think I had any limits because I don't know. I got up, and the first thing I wanted to do was walk on it, because of course, that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be able to walk, right? So I started walking on it immediately and realized, oh, that's fine. It just feels loose. It didn't hurt. So I kept walking because it didn't hurt. So for me, that was like my strategy is no pain. It's fine. And then. But then I walked on a sprained ankle for about 4 or 5 hours, where I got to this town and I still had 3 hours more to go. And this is what I call my cheat day. Because then I walked for maybe 3 kilometers out of this town, and then my ankle actually started to swell up and be very, very painful, and like it got stiff because it got very cold as well. So it was sort of like the pain was just like suddenly hitting me. And then at this point, my strategy was to I hitchhiked back to the town, because it was really dark again, and walking in the dark, and then I feel like my only self-defense on this trip is to run away from people, right? And then when your only self-defense gets taken away from you, if you then want to continue walking in the dark for 3 hours on something that's really painful, I reckon if I was the military army guy, the Navy guy you were talking about, I would definitely have done it. But I am just me. So I hitchhiked back to the town because I was in that was my limit, right? And I walked into a restaurant and to ask them to call me a cab. And whilst I was trying to talk to this lady who didn't understand English, so we were kind of like doing some signs and stuff like that. A lady who was sat on a table with her husband and their 2 friends turned around and said to me in English that they lived in Vernon, which was my Vernon. I don't know how you say it. Oh, here we go again. It's spelled Vernon, Vernon, I think. And she turned around and said, "Oh, you can get a ride with us if you can wait till we're done eating." And it actually ended up with me sitting by this table and eating with them. And they bought me dinner, and they gave me a lift for 18 kilometers. That was my cheat day. The last 3 hours of my walk. They gave me a lift to my hotel, and they gave me 20 euros for my further journeys, and they filled up my backpack with food as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, these people, they were so nice. And she gave me her phone number, so because her husband was pendling from Vernon to Paris every day, so if I needed any further help or anything, I could just call them up. So that was really nice, to be fair. I love that there's people like that out there who's just like so kind and doesn't expect anything back, and it was just amazing. Anyways, I was lying in my bed this night with my ankle. Going back to your question now. And I actually announced on my Instagram that this was going to be the end of my journey, and I was very depressed and I was feeling super sad. But for me, at this time, I had no idea how you could deal with a sprained ankle. So for me, I thought I couldn't keep walking because I still had 70 kilometers left until I reached Paris at this time. And my ankle was very blue and just very swollen, and it was painful. So I was like, how am I going to walk 70 kilometers on that, right? So for me, that was like the end for me. And I think, well, you know yourself the best, so I don't think you can really make any strategies. I think you just you just have to feel how your body is. And for me, this was the end for me. It was just an injury is an injury. And I also, even though I wanted to make it to that Eiffel Tower, I still didn't want to make further injuries. I didn't want to do anything to my body that would give me an injury for life, you know, because I've already had I don't have an ACL in my right knee as a ski accident. And I just know how it is to live with an injury and how to, like, the whole, that whole thing. That was just something that was holding me back. And because I wanted to keep living my active life after this trip as well. So for me, it was just, okay, that's going to be it. But it was very, very hard for me. And it was depressing, especially because I only had 70 kilometers left and stuff like this. The next day, though, to make this story good again, my uncle, who's an old handball player on a high level, he messaged me. At this time, it was like maybe was it 9 or 10 in the morning. I had just chose. I didn't even set an alarm because I just thought I was gonna get up and maybe take the train to Paris and maybe just spend 2 days in Paris, and be like, yeah, that was it, guys. you know. So but I went to bed crying, and it was especially because the hotel I stayed at was a truck driver hotel, and it was probably like the most disgusting hotel I've ever stayed at. I had to also share the toilet. And I was just like, I would rather go back out in nature and pee out there again than I wanted to pee at those toilets. But, like, it was just such a sad destination for my journey, you know. It was just like, this is not where it was meant to end. You know?
A little different than the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was just all so very depressing. But then, as I said, my uncle messaged me, are you walking? And I was like, no, I sprained my ankle. And he was like, tape that shit up. And I was like, what? Okay. You know, because then for me, he was professional, you know. He used to do this. He used to play games, handball games on a sprained ankle. As long as it got taped, he said it's good as long as it's taped up and it's warm, then you can use it. Hearing this got it confirmed that I didn't care now if it was painful. Just knowing that people had played handball games or whatever sort of things on a sprained ankle made me think then I can do this walk on a sprained ankle, you know. So this was the fear of like me injuring myself further that got taken away. So at this time, I luckily right next to this shitty hotel was a massive pharmacy, and I went to the pharmacy, and the first lady I spoke to, I was like, do you speak English? And she was like, no, and then she pointed on her co-worker. So I went so determined over to this lady. I think she got a bit intimidated, to be fair. But then I just threw her a big smile just to say, I'm here in peace. And then I pointed down on my ankle and I said, I need something. I'm going to walk to Paris. I'm walking 70 kilometers. I have a sprained ankle. I need something to hold this shit in. And this lady, she was so awesome. She just put a big smile on her face and she's like, you're coming to the back with me. I was like, cool. So she took me to the back of the pharmacy and she tried to she found all of these ankle support systems and whatever, and we just tried them on. Find a really good one for my ankle. I just hold it really tight and it was really good. And then we got back out and she just dropped me with like heaps of painkillers. So I was like, there you go to Paris. It was such a good moment. And then I kept on walking. So I walked to the last 70 kilometers of my trip was on a sprained ankle. But it actually, as my uncle had said, as soon as it was warm, it wasn't painful anymore, and it was actually pretty easy to walk on. So, as I said, I don't know if you have any. You should have it. Well, the strategy is to just know your body, I think.
Okay.
And know your limits. You know.
So did you walk that whole 70 on that last day straight to Paris, or what was the?
No.
You split it up? Okay.
Yeah, I split it up. So I walked 50 kilometers from Vernon to something called Poissy. Oh man, here we go again. It's Poissy. And that was 50 kilometers. And then the last day I made sure that the last day, because I knew also I had to take the stairs up in the Eiffel Tower. So I didn't want it to be a super long day of walking. So it was actually only 25 kilometers of walking the last day from Poissy to Paris.
Okay. So on this last day, tell me about what was going through your head. Were you... what were you feeling and seeing the Eiffel Tower? What was that like?
Yeah. Wow. I woke up in the morning, and because my day was so So short, I enjoyed the fact that I didn't have to like stress and, you know, repack my backpack really fast and blah blah. So I just like took a nice and warm shower, which was really really cold because I've just been taking like really cold showers. So like this nice and warm shower, and like I think I even put on makeup and stuff like that because I was like, yeah, I'm going into Paris. I need to look properly now.
Been in the countryside for the last 6 days.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was who was it? Was my stepdad who actually suggested I should bring heels and walk up in the Eiffel Tower in heels just to make a statement. I didn't. There was not space enough in my backpack. No, but so you know, and then it was such an awesome feeling waking up, but I also just it was like, you know how you look forward to Christmas Eve and stuff like that as a child. It wasn't like that sort of excitement. I remember it was just like I was just so calm. I just felt very very calm, and I was just like, wow. And I think it was more like me thinking back of the journey I had just been through and stuff like that. And before this whilst planning this trip, I went to the police office to ask the police station to ask an officer if my route was legal, because I had also read that some people had been arrested for walking on different roads and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't get arrested like an hour into my walk, right? This policeman, he just said to me that he wished me good luck, and then he told me I was insane for doing this. And I remember I was just sat in my hotel before leaving to go to the Eiffel Tower and thought, like, yeah, I said, thinking back on my journey, and then I was thinking exactly how he said it, that I was insane, and I was just like sat nodding for myself, saying, yeah, I'm pretty insane. This was pretty insane. And then I walked for, how long did it take me? It took me like 5 hours to get there. And when I first saw the Eiffel Tower, a tear definitely rolled down my face and was like, whoa, I had like a bit of a lump in my throat, and it was like, wow. And it was definitely a good feeling. It was like, because I've like on this walk, right, every time that was another thing I did with my imagination, was that whenever I was like feeling, you know, the anxiety or was scared or anything, or was rethinking why I was doing this, I just pictured myself walking towards the Eiffel Tower. And, you know, that feeling had just like, that had pushed me a lot as well the whole way. Just like that picturing the scenario of me walking towards the Eiffel Tower had got me going so many times in this trip. So just like when I was actually doing it, it seemed kind of like not realistic. I was just like, wow, this is so fucked. I was just like, I think I had been a bit 50-50 the whole trip, like the whole journey through, even though my determination was definitely saying you're going to be there, you're going to get there. But also just as being a human being and going through some of the obstacles I went through and stuff was also like, well, it's actually pretty 50-50 if you make it there or not, you know? Yeah. So even though my mind was there, like, there's also like a big part of me that was like, yeah, maybe you're not going to see the Eiffel Tower, you know? Maybe you'll die, you know? Yeah, so definitely seeing that Eiffel Tower was amazing, and that was just walking towards it. That was really awesome. Then I got there. Actually, this is kind of funny. Yes. I had promised everyone that I was gonna go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, right? And that was my final destination, right? I got to this bloody Eiffel Tower. I've been up in the Eiffel Tower before. I've been to Paris a few times before, and I was not in Paris to be in Paris, and I was not going up in the Eiffel Tower to look at the view, right? I had a goal by reaching the top of the Eiffel Tower besides the view, right? But I got there, and there was a line. First, there was a line on an hour just to get into the whole Eiffel Tower area, filled with tourists. I was just standing in this hour, and then I hoped that I could. I thought this was the only queue, so I was like, yeah, this is positive. There's an hour, and the sun is setting in an hour, so I can maybe be up there by sunset. It can be really beautiful, and like be sort of like, oh, you know. But then after I was in this line for an hour, and then I got into like then you actually queue up. That's so, oh man. So after this queue, there's another queue, and this queue was like 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was in the queue for the Eiffel Tower for 3.5 hours in total, and I hadn't brought a jacket on my trip. I only had a jumper because I knew I was going to be moving. You know, I was gonna sweat and stuff. So I didn't need a jacket, only like a raincoat or something, because I didn't need the heat because I got that from walking, right? So I was just standing there in my hoodie. It was just so cold, and I was standing there in this line. And I just felt like, oh man, I should have emailed this Eiffel Tower before getting here, saying that I was doing so they could just escort me up there. I was like, you know, this is when you expect them to stand there with like food and blankets and like a little throne for me or something. But no, I just had to line up like everyone else, which was cool. But I called my mom during these 3 hours and told her, Mom, next time I do anything this drastic in my life, I wanna end the journey in a less touristic place. And my mom even said like, don't go up there. You are there. You're at the Eiffel Tower. It's fine. Just go have some dinner. And I was like, no, I have to go up to the top. I'm here now. And to be fair, when I reached the top of the Eiffel Tower, I did break down in tears again, because it was worth the 3 hours of waiting. And because that was when I really felt, okay, I've made it. This is done. But it was a bit funny, the whole touristic sort of scenario, and like me just having walked to Paris and then having to stand there, having like, oh man. But it was definitely incredible and awesome to reach that goal. And then went back down, celebrated with buying a steak and a creme brulee. And then I took a cab to the airport, and then I slept in the airport. Well, I didn't sleep at all. I couldn't fall asleep. It was too cold. And my flight was back to London at 6:50 in the morning. Yeah, and then I came back to London. Took the train back from Gatwick Airport, which was also kind of funny, because that was like my first destination to walk there, was to Gatwick Airport. So having to like just take the train back from there was kind of like a bit funny to think back, oh, I walked this a week ago. Came home, bought a frozen pizza, made that for breakfast, and then I slept for, I think I actually slept for 25 hours straight.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was, I needed that. I was so tired.
I can only imagine. Jeez.
Yeah.
So can you, back to some of the kind of emotion behind why you did this, we talked about right at the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Mind charity and like why you chose to raise money for them throughout this?
Yeah, well, the Mind charity is such a nice charity, and it's it basically has this saying that is like, we won't stop until everyone with a mental issue have got the support and respect they need. That's the to live by motto, or whatever you call it. And I think what they do is just incredible, and they support mental health in so many good ways. And yeah, so it wasn't really there was no question that's just what I was, and like it was so well put together with the whole. Also, for me, this is also a thing, is that when I was dealing with, I went through a lifestyle transformation 2 years ago when I went through my mental health issues, and that was actually what helped me through it and got me, back to feeling good again, was the gym and being active. And I lost 15 kilos in 1 year and gained back 10 in pure muscle and became a personal trainer and all this sort of stuff. And I think it really, it was kind of like also a thing to show how exercise in general can just go in and help your mentality, and how you, as I told you, the gym had actually helped me a lot through this journey. I think in life in general it can help a lot. So it's kind of like supporting the mental health was so I don't know this English word. It was so obvious. I can say, I think I can use that word. It was so obvious to me that it had to be mental health, because it was like I was doing this activity, I was walking, and it was for mental health, and it was just to show people that there are ways you can get over not feeling well and not being okay, and yeah. So it was like mental health, walking, yeah, it all came together as one, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Probably doesn't.
No, it does. Definitely does.
Okay.
Could you, I think on your fundraising page, you talked about a little bit during this period of your life where you felt like you were just in a bottle of negativity. And when you're kind of going through these things, could you describe that a little bit more and just kind of share on your time in that state?
Definitely. Well, I was, so I'm not gonna, well, you can't always control why you start to feel the way you feel, and for me, it was, oh, here goes the dog.
There's a dog.
Yeah. For me, it was actually after a breakup with a boyfriend. So I had my heart broken. It's such a cliche, I hate saying it, but it made me go down with anxiety and depression, also because me and this boyfriend, we had been in a long distance relationship, and he was from Australia, so I had actually lived my life for him for like 2.5 years, where because my life was all about how to bring the two of us together so we can spend time together for 2.5 years, where I had not thought one moment, what do Oline wants to do? What do I want to do with my life? Like, it was sort of like, if that makes sense. So I think when he broke up, it wasn't so much losing him and stuff that's sad as well, but it was more the fact that I found myself in a place in my life where I had no fucking clue what to do with my life. And it made me so scared, because also I'm not a book smart person, so educational wise I wasn't really, I only had my ski instructor education, which was, but I had my knee injury and stuff, so I felt kind of lost at this time, and I think a lot of things was just like bumbling down, and I just became, and then I think when a person tells you that they, like a person who really just knows you deep down tells you that they don't want you in your life anymore, then that hurts a lot. and that really got to me, and that made me bitter, and that made me think that love doesn't exist, and everyone are assholes, everything is shit. I just turned into this massive bubble of everything was shit and nothing mattered. I was like, because I think I grew up thinking that that love conquers everything, but it clearly does not. So, but it was just like this feeling of, I don't know, of pure negativity, and my family and friends were there for me and stuff like that. But I went into like, I had days where I actually did not want to be alive. And I broke down. I had anxiety attacks at my job. I would literally stand and talk to a customer and then break down and shake and cry and stuff at my job. It was really embarrassing. And I had to quit my job because I don't know why. It just hit me really, really hard. This experience hit me very hard. But luckily for me, my support system is really very good. And also, I then found the gym. I actually, one day I was in my bed and I was crying, and I felt very worthless after this experience as well. And I just I remember just becoming angry instead of sad. I had these angry feelings, and I just became very determined, and I remember I went and looked myself in the mirror and just was like, I'm gonna show you. I just got really, really angry. So I bought a gym mat and a jump rope. I took the car and drove up, and 15 minutes later I was back, and then I was in my garden just skipping away on this bloody jump rope and like doing sit-ups on this gym mat. And I remember my family coming home, just looking out in the garden, looking at me like I was like, I lost my mind. And I was like, I kept doing this for like an entire month. Every day I was just in the garden on that jump rope, and I was like, it was the only thing that made me feel good and made me feel like better again. And eventually I moved the whole thing up to the gym, and I don't know, just exercising, and then support system, everything made me feel a lot better. And then I moved to London 3 months later, which also, of course, did a lot for me because, well, you're in a different place, different area. You don't have too many, like, all the negative thoughts kind of like got deleted by having to replace myself and stuff like that. So I think I just tried to like, I don't know how I got it turned around, but I did, and that was awesome. And so that's why I became a personal trainer as well, is because I realized how much exercise, whenever you exercise, it gives you happy endorphins, right? And eating healthy and all this, it's just like I got this whole brand new positive sight on life after that. And I used to be very fixed-minded, where I developed like a very growth mindset after starting to exercise and stuff. And a fixed mindset is sort of where that would be like, if you take it as an example, it would be in a classroom. Someone who, if someone fails a test, like a math test or something, a person with a fixed mindset would say, oh, I'm shit at this, I'm never gonna do that again, right? Where a person with a growth mindset will say, oh, I didn't do well, I will sit down and then I'll learn, you know? So instead of just giving up straight away, you learn stuff, right? So for me, that's how it helped everything. Is that it gave me a growth mindset, and instead of just giving up on everything right away, I started to just like learn a lot more. So it opened up my mindset, it made me happy, it made me healthy, and so of course I became a personal trainer in order to to give this experience to other people and to help them through that. Yeah.
So, sorry.
No worries.
During those days where, like, and that period where you were in like your worst negative states, and some of those days where you felt like you didn't want to live and just were in those really bad parts and didn't quite have discovered exercise yet. Like, what were you telling yourself to kind of keep going, and like what were some of the struggles you faced with those days, and how did you kind of get through those?
It's also hard because it's a bit like that Black Forest actually. It's kind of like you don't want to keep going, but you sort of have to. I think the Black Forest that was my Great Depression.
It's all connected.
Yeah, all connected, exactly. No, but I as I said, the support system I had and like my own emotions was like, I don't know, I just had this little voice, and the same. Okay, this is how I see it, right? And this might not make sense. It might make a lot of sense. I don't know, because I think we all see things differently and do things differently. But for me, probably 80%, maybe 85%, maybe 90% of my thoughts were all negative and very, you can't do shit sort of things. And then I feel like I had those 5% left of me, 5% left of me, where I had I don't know, I just knew myself well enough that I deserved to respect myself and I deserved better, and I deserved to be happy, because also I traveled, before he broke up with me, my ex-boyfriend, we traveled South America together, on a trip that I bought. No, sorry. Asshole. Anyways. We traveled South America, and I remember crying of pure happiness. I was in between Argentina and Brazil. There's a massive fall called Iguazu Falls. And it's basically I think it is the biggest fall in the world after Niagara. Well, there's 200 falls in one area, and it's just filled with waterfalls and rainbows, and it's just like it's incredibly amazing place to be. And we went on this rubber boat underneath the waterfalls, and I just had this moment of like water splashing in my face, and there was a rainbow over there and a waterfall over there, and it was just such a beautiful moment in life, and I cried of happiness. And also in Canada one time I cried of happiness, and I think these moments are worth collecting in your life and worth remembering. I had this time in Canada where I had just arrived, and I lived up in the mountains, and I was in this small town called Lake Louise, and all the electricity had gone, and I was out early in the morning, and I just saw a billion stars on the sky, and I had never seen a shooting star in my life, and I saw maybe 7 shooting stars in a row here. It was just like I've never seen a night sky like that before in my life, and I was just sat there alone, and again crying a little bit of happiness, because I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. And I think those moments were moments that I thought back of on my negative times, and I was like, that is life, and that's worth living for. And I want to experience more moments in my life like that, where I just feel in absolute happiness and just feel in peace and stuff like that. And so I think actually that got me motivated as well to I felt that I had to respect not just me as a person, but my life, that, you have this one life, and I just felt that I didn't have time to stay negative. I wanted to go back in I'm such a positive person. I was even before my it was only after this life experience I turned into this negative person. Beforehand, I was traveling the world. I was always, people had always told me how they could hear my laugh from like miles away, and I don't know, it's just those compliments and life experience of happy moments. Thinking back on those moments just made me realize that was where I was gonna go again. I wanted to get back to that. So I think that motivated me to try my best to get rid of the negativity, because a lot of like actually the big issue with mental health is that people don't seek the help, and they because they, especially with depression, actually 80% I've read, I'm not saying this as a fact, I've just read it, okay, but 80% of depressions get cured, but the 20% that doesn't is not because they don't it's actually because they don't try. They don't seek help, they don't seek therapy and stuff like that. And I think when you have a mental health issue, it's so important to seek this help and to try to get away from it, because everyone would be surprised how it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy at all, but actually how much it helps to get help, if that makes sense.
What about, because I'm sure there's people out there, and maybe you experienced this a little bit too, but was there ever times where like you knew you should get help, but like you almost didn't want to, or you you felt like you knew you needed to do this, but like it'd almost be such a big change, or like it'd be hard to put in the work to start improving even though you knew you wanted to? Like, how did you ever feel like that? Or like if someone is feeling like, you know, I know I should get help, I know I should reach out to an organization or friends or family, but like I'm scared to, or I don't want to, like how do you push through those type of things?
For me, it's I don't know, even though I have a very close relationship to my mom, it was actually on a daily basis, it was really hard for me to tell her that I wasn't happy, because also I didn't want my mom to think that I was unhappy. So I actually, but then I went out and started drinking and got home really drunk, and then the fact that I was screaming and crying whenever I got home was pretty revealing that I wasn't feeling quite okay. So here's my advice: go get drunk and then you can seek help. No, of course not. But I remember having a hard time. Also because I didn't want to be that negative person, and I didn't. Sorry, I have a dog crawling on me right now. Hunter, sit down. Okay, sorry. It is. I see why it's hard to seek help and stuff, but I think I definitely had moments. I think for me, I think it was kind of the opposite. I think I should have sought help at some point, just to have someone to talk to. I think what I needed back then was a stranger, or someone I didn't really know, to talk to and to confirm that whatever I was feeling was normal, you know, and there wasn't anything wrong with me, because I felt as if there was something really wrong with me. And I would have loved, I would have loved as a professional to have told me that it was okay not to be okay and this stuff. But I never actually sought help, because I think my the time I was feeling like this was so short. It lasted for 3 or 4 months before I started to slowly get better again. So, but I think if the feelings had gone on further than that, I would definitely have sought help at some point. But I would just advise people to seek help, and just not necessarily call it help, but then just like someone to talk to, and just like I know a few people who have dealt with depression as well, and anxiety, and I actually know a fair few people who suffers from some mental health problems. Well, actually, it's 1 in every 4 people, so you can, like, everyone knows someone. But I think what they have done is that, I'm sorry, these dogs are being very distracting right now.
It's okay.
Basically, I think that seeking help is well, they have told me, that's where I came from, sorry. They have told me that one of them have been in like a meetup group where they go, like, people with a depression go and meet up together and like sort of like talk together about it, and that has helped her a lot, because she now feels like that's the worst part about a mental health, is that you feel like you're sort of alone, and you feel like you're the only person in the world who feels like this. But acknowledging and knowing that other people are feeling like that too, and you're not, it's that it is normal and it is okay. That is a massive help, just knowing that. So I think, yeah, she said that, just knowing that, like, being able to talk to other people about her experience without people sort of like not understanding her and stuff like that, that was very helpful.
Yeah, I can see how just talking about it can be so important. I mean, even just like this conversation, I don't think anyone really wants to consider themselves as someone who is super anxious or depressed or be labeled as someone who has some mental health. Like, but the reality is there are many people who face that.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, you know, if it's 1 out of 4 people, there's probably a lot more people out there who you wouldn't think have that going on. Yeah. And obviously, if you're out with people, you kind of put on a front and, oh, everything's good, blah blah blah. But yeah, that's why I think just talking about it can be so important. And is it something that, like you said, it kind of lasted pretty heavily for you for like 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
Is it something like you've still dealt with in the last few months or years? Like, is it something that you feel like you can pretty much overcome, and if you place good habits and things into your life, then you'll be okay?
It's the good habits you just mentioned, is that I have established a lot of good habits over the last, after this, it became a goal for me to just become all over strong, both physically and mentally. Also I've read a lot of psychology. I've researched it, right? So every time now where I'm faced with something unknown, or a feeling or a life situation where I don't know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, I actually go research it. And this is, for me, something that has helped a lot. Just as we live in a world today where you can Google everything, right? So just being able to sort of get I think if you know the reason for the problem, then it's easier for you to solve the problem, right? So I've basically lived from that, knowing that in the last few years, and sometimes I still feel, and I do still, like, for an example, I just made a new friend here in London, and she's from Denmark as well. And we had this weekend where we were going to go out, and because I've made some good habits in my life, and I know these good habits, I know, okay, if I start to not do these good habits, if I started to not go to the gym, if I started not to do all the small things I have gotten as good habits over the last couple of years, I would probably end up in a pretty anxious place mentally. And so I had this weekend, and we were actually going to go out, and then I have learned to say no and to know myself when to back out, and because I felt that this weekend I wanted to focus more on me and wanted to do things that were good for me, because I started to become a little bit stressed in my head, and I started to feel discomfort mentally and being not in the place where I wanted to be. I was not unhappy, but I was not really, I just had a lot of things going on. So I told her, hey, I'm not going to go out drinking this weekend. I'm just going to stay at home and blah blah blah, and I'm feeling because I feel like I need to solve all these things, otherwise I'll become a bit anxious. This is a girl I had known for 2 weeks, and I literally put it out there straight away that, hey, I need to take care of myself. I'm feeling a bit anxious, right? And she immediately said, "Oh my God, I know that feeling, and it's all cool, and it's fine. We'll go out next weekend." This is an approach that I'm gonna approach people with, like being open about it for me as well, because then, first of all, then, whoa, she knows that feeling too. Okay, so I don't have to feel weird about it. Second of all, then in the future, you have a friend who already knows about your mentality and how you sometimes feel not okay, and then they can be a friend for you instead of, I think a lot of, so depression, for an example, have a lot of side effects on you. It can be, you feel very tired. You're not very, depressed people can tend to be not very punctual, so like show up late to stuff and not get up at all, and all these sort of things, right? And I think for me, I had a friend who has a severe depression, and if I hadn't had known she had a depression, I don't think I would have been friends with her, because I have been standing in the rain for 3 hours waiting for her, you know? But she never showed up. If I hadn't known that there was a reason for that and thinking that she was just an asshole, I probably wouldn't have been friends with her, right? But knowing the reason why sometimes, like if your friend has a depression, then you can forgive them for sometimes not answering. She also has like where she doesn't want to pick up the phone because she doesn't like talking on the phone. She likes texting. Just all these things. So I think if you make your friends and family aware of how you're feeling and stuff, it becomes better for everyone. And then you can feel like everyone is accepting how you're feeling as well a lot more than instead of you hiding it and keep feeling bad because you didn't make it to your friends, or you came an hour late and then you didn't show up at all because you're so embarrassed that you were an hour late and stuff like this. I think that's something that you can work on as well with the depression, is that or mental health is just like be open about it, because there are a lot of people out there who are actually feeling and going through similar things. So even though you feel like you're all alone, you're definitely not.
So what can, like, in your experience or in other experiences you've been a part of, if there's someone else that you know, whether that's a friend or family member, like what have you found that other people can do to help that person? Like, or when your friends and family members were kind of helping you through your few months, like what did you find that like helped you out, that they were doing, or some things that they did or didn't do, more importantly maybe, that like you felt was like, thanks for doing this, and like understanding, like was there anything that stands out in that regard?
Definitely. So I think you should be careful about doing is to try to actually help too much, if that makes sense. Like, don't become a therapist for this person, because that's not what they need. It might be, but it's not what they need you as a friend to do. But it's just let this person know that you're there for them. I think that is so important. It's not necessarily solving their problem, saying, oh, you should try this, or hey, have you seen these 10 top things you can do, or because all of this is like it's not like, even though it's out of you wanting to do something good and being helpful, it's actually not really helping. It can actually just put a lot of pressure on this person, because they might think that this person wants me to be different or something, or wants me to, like, it's some pressure you put on the person, telling them, and then, oh, I better do these 10 things or something. Like, it's like then it becomes pressure instead of, what you should do if you have a person with mental health issues, you should tell them that you're there for them, and you feel
that you're sorry they're going through what they're going through, but they're like whatever they're feeling right now, that's not going to be the same feelings they have in the future necessarily, and that you're there for them if they need your help. And then let them ask you questions, let them come to you and talk to you and stuff. Because I think it's also important not to put pressure on the person.
Was there anything that like you found to be really helpful for yourself, like resource-wise, other than like exercise? Like, you said you kind of looked into psychology and tried to understand what was going on, and that seemed to help a lot. Like, were there any books or like websites or groups you joined that you would recommend that other people could check out?
Actually, not specific. I literally just go on Google and say, and then so I don't even have any specific websites or anything, unfortunately. I would have loved to like give out some stuff, but I don't. What I do is like whenever I felt anxious, I just Google why am I feeling anxious and why do I feel like this and blah blah blah, and then there's like some good sources, and then when you find out, you kind of go like, that makes sense, right? And like, okay, and then I don't know, but unfortunately I don't have anything specific to give out or any books or anything like that.
Okay, no worries. So what is next for you, do you think? Like, you've done this pretty cool challenge, walking challenge for yourself. You've become a personal trainer and kind of really improved your state in the moment. And like, do you have any other big physical goals like this walking thing? Do you have anything else you want to do to like help other people? Like, what's coming up for you, I guess?
Well, actually, so I'm moving to Barcelona in March, and sorry, I have a dog at the moment, and she's attacking me with her puppy. Sorry.
Sounds like she's attacking you right now.
Yeah, she basically is. Hunter, sit down. She's called Hunter as well, which is funny. So I am moving to Barcelona, and I had the travel group I posted my story in. A lot of the girls commented on the story and told me I should check out the Camino walk. Camino in Santiago. Camino, I think it's pronounced Camino. Anyways, it's like a 800-kilometer long walk through France and Spain. But it's like pilgrim trails put together. Anyways, it looked really, really awesome, and it might be something I would look into do when I move down to Spain. But I don't have my mind set on anything yet specifically. No. So
okay.
yeah. For now, I'm just gonna relax a little bit, I think.
Probably well deserved.
And enjoy that I don't have to walk 60 kilometers.
Yeah, let your feet recover a little bit.
Oh yeah. I just had my first. It's a week and a day ago I came home, and I just had my first proper gym session yesterday. I've literally had a week rest where I've just. It's funny. My body actually. I was expecting my body to just be very sore. But I actually felt as if I had been lying in a hospital bed for a week. That was how I felt after. I just felt very weak, It was like I felt like and that was that was really shit, because normally I like to feel strong, as a gym person, and then just feeling like you couldn't move really and just be like tired and weak. That was just like, I want to get back to being like having my full strength again. So, but it's coming back now, so that's good.
Is where are you at with you said you were going to start a blog. I think you said Strong with Oline.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Where are you at with that process?
Yeah, I'm probably a couple of weeks from publishing it, maybe only one. It depends. I'm working 2 jobs right now, and I'm also studying to become a nutrition advisor on the side. So I have like a lot of things in the air right now. So and I have to sort of prioritize everything because my jobs are my income and this is my study for my future education. So right now I cannot 100% prioritize my time on this blog, which is it sucks a little bit because I have a lot of good things to like put out there. I think like sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish I had my blog right now because then I could write this about this, you know. So it's like, so it's definitely coming to its point where I just want to publish it so I can just like get my thoughts out there and it's gonna be a blog about just feeling strong both on the inside and the outside, and just like the methods I've used and stuff that I like, knowledge I've gained on both like mindset and nutrition and fitness. Just I hope people will go read it and maybe it can help some people or inspire some.
Where can someone follow when you will have this posted, or like is there some way to sign up for emails, or like basically asking for myself, how can I know when you actually get this going and I can check it out and read some of the things you post?
It will definitely, if you follow me on Instagram, Scandi undercut Oline, then I will definitely post either on the photos or in my story whenever I publish the blog in there, because that's like my Instagram is like where I have my followers, so that I feel like that's like the audience I want to try to hit, also because it's a lot of gym people and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. I will link that in the show notes so people can get that. And yeah, sorry, I know we're kind of coming up on our time here. Is there anything that I haven't asked about or we haven't really talked about that you'd want to address or bring up?
No, I think we've been around everything actually. Yeah, I'm just taking a minute to think.
Well,
No,
if not, then
actually,
I'm glad. That means I did my job. So
yeah, definitely. Well, I'm also known to be quite the talker, so I have that from my dad, unfortunately.
no, I like that it's good for podcasting because
Yeah, I reckon it is.
it's a lot better than someone who doesn't like to talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell my mom, and it came to good use for what.
Okay, so Instagram would be the best way to reach you if someone wants to reach out or ask a question or follow up or anything.
Yeah, definitely. Also Facebook, just under my name. People can message me in there. But yeah, Instagram is probably the place to find me right now. Yeah.
Okay, and what's your the fundraising page for
the fundraising? Yes, and it's still going, so people can still donate. Actually, and it is. Now I need the website name here. 2 seconds. Well, it is Just Giving. I can tell you that right now. I don't know why my. Oh, here we go. Is there any Wi-Fi coming through? Yeah. Sorry about that. It's always technology problems. Okay, right. This is just working super slow. I'm just gonna take it from my phone instead.
I think I actually have it up.
Do you have it?
I think so. I'll say it and let me know if it's the right one. It looks like the right one. So it's www.justgiving.com/fundraising/Oline-S-Rensen.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right. And I'll link that too, so you can just click on it instead of having to type it in.
Perfect. That is perfect.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And yeah, is there any final parting thoughts or words you want to say to our listeners?
You can do anything you set your mind to.
Love it. Yes, you can.
That was about it. Yep. All right.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad to you're able to share your story, and hopefully this finds the right people who need it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you, and thank you everyone for listening, and until next time. Hey everyone, Lee here again real quick with the question of the episode, which is, when have you pushed yourself to do something you previously thought you were not capable of doing? Head to edgeofcomfort.com/EOCP16, that's the number 16, and leave your answer or story in the comment section at the bottom of the post. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to reading your answers. Cheers!